Do you find yourself overwhelmed by the thought of making a career transition? I've been there and I understand the challenges you face. That's why I created the Career Compass, the ultimate guide for high achieving corporate women to make career transitions with ease. The Career Compass breaks down the decision making process into 5 clear steps, helping you make savvy, empowered career decisions. Head over to KarenFreeland.com/career compass right now and download this invaluable resource. It's completely free and will get you on the path to a more fulfilling career. Go to KarenFreeland.com/career compass now. Welcome to Rock Your Reinvention, where I help high achieving career women like you get unstuck, make your corporate exit strategy, and successfully transition to your next chapter. Hi, I'm your host, Karen Freeland, a certified life coach and corporate exit strategist. Whether you want to start a business, become a speaker, or something else, I'm here to give you the tools and strategies to shift your mindset, build your confidence, and take bold actions so you can rock your reinvention. Ready? Let's go. Let's talk fear today. Behind every unsatisfied woman is a fear, if not more. Think about that. We actually accept dissatisfaction in our lives, our careers, our relationships, you name it, because we let fears rule over us. And we all have fears. It's just that most people don't discuss them, right? I don't walk around saying, "Oh, hi, nice to meet you. I'm scared to death of writing a third book because I'm terrified it won't sell and I'll have wasted all that money." Or, "Oh, I'm scared something will happen to someone in my family and I'll regret spending so much time on my business or in work or volunteering to support others that, that was time I should have been spending with them." No one does that. We just walk around with smiles on our face and secretly letting these fears fester inside of us. And it plagues us in a variety of ways. It's not always those really big goals where fear creeps up, but it can prevent us from simply going back to the gym after we've been away for a while, or keep us from apologizing to someone when we know we should. It causes us to miss out on opportunities at work, getting promoted, things of that nature, and it can even make you miss out on a great date. But it's not all bad news. The key to overcoming your fear is your mindset. And today I want to walk you through 7 things that will help you truly overcome those fears once and for all. If you do the work, right? That's the thing. You have to apply the information that you are absorbing. You can't just listen to the podcast and think your life is going to change. You have to apply everything that I'm showing you and teaching you, okay? So if you're ready to apply the information, and I know you are, or you wouldn't be here, let's dig in. We know that most fear is just, here's your first thing, false evidence appearing real. And if you've never heard this acronym before, I think it's just a fantastic way to remind us that we tend to fabricate and make our fear seem more real than it is. And often there's nothing to actually back up that fear. It's just vapor, right? So let's just take a simple example like going back to the gym. You start imagining that everyone is watching you walk in. They're staring at you like, "Oh, what is she doing here?" You picture yourself trying to figure out a machine and it's just not working, and you get flustered and embarrassed, and in your mind, you leave the gym. But here's the thing. None of that is really happening to you, right? It's all in your head. So the trick is to ask yourself, is this real fear or self-generated? And in this case, worrying that someone might make fun of you is self-generated. And in my experience, 99% of my clients are experiencing self-generated fears. And once they understand the difference, they can move forward without the false fear, and you will be able to as well. So what can you do? Because like I said, I don't want you to just listen to this. I want to give you action items and things that you can really do practically in your life to turn this around. Start by writing your fears down, all of them, in a big list, and then go back through and label them. Is this a real fear or is it self-generated? And if you're really honest with yourself, okay, and sometimes that's hard to do, but if you're really honest with yourself, I think you'll find that the majority of your fear is self-generated. The second thing you can do is embrace the fear. There is a big misconception out there that confident people or successful people are fearless. And that's simply not true. They just don't let fear get in the way. That's the only difference. No one ever likes to do this in real life, and I get why, right? Because embracing the fear is uncomfortable. And you probably want to skip ahead to the next tip and just ignore this one altogether. That is natural because your brain is made to keep you comfortable. It will do whatever it can to avoid discomfort and pain. But unfortunately, it's the only way to avoid succumbing to your fears, embracing the fear. The late, great Dr. Susan Jeffers advised in her book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, that you just have to basically acknowledge that you have this fear and then move through it. Do the thing that you want to do anyway. We're not telling you not to feel the fear. You probably couldn't get rid of it entirely even if you tried. But instead, we're saying, don't let the fear hold you back. So how can you embrace your fears? Well, you want to gradually start to expose yourself to them. Let's take networking as an example. I had a client recently who was trying to scale and grow her business, but she really came to me because she wanted help increasing her confidence. And she knew she needed to put herself out there more to grow her business, start going to networking events, things of that nature. So I challenged her to start going to 2 a week. And as she began to experience them, she got better and better at sharing her services. She even found herself enjoying them. And on our last session, she said, I have a networking event this afternoon and I'm not even worried about it. I'm not even giving it any mental energy. I'm actually excited and looking forward to it. That is the transformation you experience when you embrace the fear. So how can you expose yourself to your fears? Well, come up with 3 ways for your specific situation and then hold yourself accountable for it. Maybe you're afraid to go live. Maybe you have a business and you're like, I'm so afraid to put myself out there. I don't want to go live on Facebook. Well, do a short one. Do a short 30-second live video. Then do a minute. Then do 2 minutes, right? And as you slowly expose yourself, you're going to get better and better at it, and it's not going to bother you as much. Now, that's just one example. Obviously, you need to translate this for your specific situation. The third thing you can do to overcome your fear is to rename fear as excitement. Some of you might be thinking, what the heck does she mean? What is that? Well, it turns out that fear and excitement both raise your pulse. They trigger very similar physiological reactions in the body. The difference is just in how the brain perceives these sensations. Fear is obviously seen as negative, while excitement is seen as pleasurable. So you get to choose. Is this fear, or are you actually just excited? If you have a fear of public speaking, which most people do, so it's a good chance you fall into that bucket, you most likely get the jitters, that racing heart, the sweaty palms beforehand. But in that moment, you get to choose. Are you going to recognize those as fear symptoms, or are you going to recognize that as, I'm just really excited to get out there, hit the stage, share my message with people, let's go. This is excitement. Now, this is one of the things you got to try in real time, okay? It's going to take practice. You can't just do it once, say it didn't work, and then give up. It takes repetition for this to be ingrained, but you can absolutely start renaming your fear as excitement. Now, for a helpful 3-step process that is going to help you bust even your toughest fears, your 4th tip is the name it, claim it, reframe it process. What does that mean? How does this work? Easy peasy. First, you're going to name what you're afraid of. You have to say it out loud. You have to write it down. You cannot leave it in your head. If you leave it in your head, it gets all hairy, it grows legs, and it becomes a whole thing. We don't want that. Instead, you're going to put it down on a piece of paper. I'm afraid to leave my job and stay home with the kids. That's the first piece, okay? Name it. Then you're going to claim it. You're going to own it. You're going to admit boldly, yeah, that thing scares me, and here's why. I'm afraid to leave my job and stay home with the kids because I'm afraid I won't have enough money for my lifestyle. I'm afraid my friends won't like me anymore. You might even admit that these feel a little silly as they come out, right? Like you might be writing them down and thinking like, oh gosh, my friends won't like me anymore. That's ridiculous. Why would I think that? But here's the thing. Obviously that thought is in there somewhere or it wouldn't have come out. So by putting it down on paper, you're going to be now in the next phase able to examine that thought more clearly. So keep listing all of those fears because if you don't, it's going to continue to haunt your subconscious and it's going to hold you back. For example, you might be thinking, well, actually, I'm kind of afraid that I'm going to be bored at home all day. So whatever it is, no judgment, okay? Because I know some of you might be thinking, well, bored at home with 2 toddlers? Yeah, right. I wish. I'd love to be bored. But everybody responds differently and everybody has different thoughts. So go ahead and capture those thoughts. No judgment, no self-editing. Then we get to step 3, and this is where we get to reframe it, okay? This is where you examine the thought and really evaluate the fear that you just listed. I mean, I can always go back to work. I could find another job to keep my lifestyle if for some reason I couldn't afford it. My real friends don't care what I do for a living, right? If I get bored, I can start a side hustle. I could take a few online classes, right? Come up with some of those solutions to some of these thoughts. Now it's not so scary and you can build a plan to exit your job. Okay? So name it, claim it, reframe it. I love that one. I use it all the time and I use it with my clients. So I know that it's going to help you as well. The 5th thing you can do is to determine if it's fear of failure or fear of success. Yes, those are 2 different things. And yes, women especially experience both of those. Fear of failure is pretty straightforward. And that's what most people think of when we mention fear. This is where you worry that you're not going to succeed. You keep your expectations really low and you focus on your imperfections, your weaknesses, the things that you don't possess, the skills that you don't have. But on the flip side, many people actually fear success more, especially high-achieving women that I work with, because they often worry about the need to keep performing at such a high level. Or imposter syndrome, right? When I'm finally going to get to the level where everybody figures out I'm a fraud. There's a lot of stress that comes along with that. And working at those very high levels becomes exhausting after a while. You might even be worried that people will be jealous or won't like you, right? The higher you climb in the organization, the more loneliness you tend to experience. And I've seen this firsthand in many 6 and 7 figure earning females. Oftentimes, another reason we have the fear of success is that we don't believe we deserve success. Who am I to get that promotion? Who am I to be making $800,000 a year? And we start to question our worth. Now, a coach, a therapist, right? This is where you can get third-party help to come in and identify which of these fears are really holding you back. That way you know how to address it. But if you're not ready for coaching, one telltale sign is self-sabotage. And that obviously looks different for everyone, but it's the general practice of undermining yourself and actively working against what you say you want. I've had clients that would stress eat, when they were trying to reclaim their health. I've had clients that overbook themselves and just said yes to a bunch of things that weren't really priorities. And then we're like, oh, I just don't have time to focus on my business. I've seen women say they want to reduce their stress and then apply for bigger, more stressful jobs. So there's no one size of self-sabotage that fits all, which is why it can be hard to diagnose for some. But this is a great opportunity for you to pull out your journal and take some time to reflect. What are your self-sabotaging behaviors? Have you ever even sat down to think about that? Have you ever asked yourself, what am I doing that is self-sabotaging in my life right now? Which one do you think, when you write them all out and you have a list of self-sabotaging behaviors, and maybe you have 2 or 3, maybe you have 10, which one do you think is the most problematic? Let's not try to solve all your self-sabotaging behavior at once. Okay, let's pick one that we want to focus on. And then what's one thing you could do to mitigate, stop, change that behavior? Okay? And I hope that you will take me up on doing that work, because I think it'll really be very enlightening. And once you know what you self-sabotage, you're also going to be more actively aware of it. And you're like, oh, I'm doing it again. I'm doing that stress eating thing. Or I'm doing that thing where I say yes to everybody else, and then there's no time to say yes for the things that are actually important to me. Okay, I've got 2 more for you. The 6th thing you can do is to remember that fear can be healthy. What? Record scratch. Okay, check this out. If you spaced out for a second, come on back, because yes, I just said fear can be healthy. Our fear comes from our instincts. We don't want to get rid of all of our fear because it can be a really helpful alarm system for us. Fear helps us look at all the angles of something before we jump in, right? We don't want to blindly just do things. It's good to have a healthy dose of fear sometimes. Let's say you wanted to start a business. Fear would probably tell you not to use your entire life savings, but to only take a portion, maybe a third of your life savings or a quarter of your life savings. Thank you, fear. That would be great advice. Maybe you want to take on a new project at work, but you're having some fear. This could be really good because it's going to make you take that role more seriously. And guess what? The more seriously you take the role, the more chances you have of being successful at it. Thank you, fear. So consider for yourself, how could fear be a blessing in your current situation? How has fear helped you in the past? It's always really great to go back and reflect and see how it has been beneficial for you. By shifting your perspective about fear, you're not going to go running in the other direction every time you experience it. Again, it will help you embrace the fear the way we talked about it earlier, because you'll be able to see that sometimes it's actually really helpful. And the last thing you can do is to remember that fear is universal. Now, if you're listening to this, you might be thinking, Karen, that seems like a lame consolation prize. Remember that fear is universal? Yeah, okay, thanks. But I can't tell you how many times this tiny reminder has saved me. Because here's the thing, everyone has something they are afraid of. Everyone, with a capital E. Regardless of their level of success, their financial situation, their education level, their race, their gender, their age. I mean, you literally pick any identifier and I'll find you someone who has fears with that identifier, okay? And once you recognize that others have fear too, we normalize it. We take away its power over us. I remember when I was starting my business and thinking like, oh my gosh, I am so scared to do this. I have never run a business before. There's not really a lot of people in my family that have run businesses before. I don't know if I have what it takes. I've only ever worked in large organizations where there's a department for everything, and now I have to do it all. I don't know how I'm going to do this. And then I would remember how many women had started businesses in my circle, people I started networking with, and I would see them doing it. And they would tell me, Karen, I was scared too. I didn't know if I could do it. And suddenly it just would ease my fears to remind myself that These people are scared too, but they're doing it and they've made it work. And if they can do it, you know what? I bet I can too. And it doesn't take the fear away completely, right? Of course, it rarely does. That's why we have to feel the fear and do it anyway, as Dr. Susan Jeffers says. But it does make the fears more manageable, because in those moments when I remember that everybody else is having the same fear, I no longer feel like an outsider. So if you're experiencing fear in your life, congratulations, you're normal. And now you won't let it hold you back, because you have all of these tools and tips to help you rewire your mindset. So let's do a quick recap in case anyone's spaced out and you didn't get all 7 tips. The first one is to remember that fear is just false evidence appearing real. So you just need to figure out, is this self-generated? Is this real fear? And then you know how to deal with it going forward. The next thing you can do, number 2, is to embrace the fear, because you're going to feel it. So don't try to run from it. The third thing is renaming fear to excitement. You get to choose how your brain perceives this. Number 4, use the name it, claim it, reframe it process. I'm telling you, this will be incredibly helpful to really get to the root cause of your fears and examine them and turn them around. Number 5, determine if it's fear of failure or fear of success, because you're going to treat those differently. And number 6, fear can be healthy. So don't feel like you got to get rid of it. You don't. Fear can be a great tool to prevent you from jumping in over your head or making mistakes. And number 7, fear is universal. So embrace it, enjoy it, and be glad that you're normal. If you want support overcoming your fears, that's one of the main things that I help my clients do. Let's hop on a call to discuss your specific situation and make an action plan for going forward together. You can book this via my website, KarenFreeland.com, or you can go to the Calendly link in the show notes. But I would love to help you make 2025, and yes, that is right around the corner, your year to shine, okay? Or whenever you're listening to this. Let's do this. Don't let those fears get in the way another moment, because you have too important of a purpose, and I want to make sure that you get to live it. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're inspired to take action by committing to one of the tips or strategies we talked about in today's episode. If you want more accountability and support, I've got your back. Book a complimentary Empowered Exit Strategy call today. Visit KarenFreeland.com to learn more and book your 45-minute session. Until next time, stay fabulous.